Everyone please rise, please. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Remain standing. We'll have our invocation, then our Pledge of Allegiance, and singing of the national anthem. Lord, we thank you for this day, this opportunity to come together to serve. Be with us in our deliberations and help us to be wise in all the decisions that we make here tonight. And also we ask that you grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say. In your holy name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There will be no national anthem. We moved the meeting, and I forgot that. So if you would retire the colors, please.
Ready, colors. Ready, cut. Forward, arch. Right wheel, arch. Forward, arch.
May be seated. Yeah. And if we could have the color guard come back in and introduce themselves. Can they, Mr. Spencer, would you get them to, oh, okay. Here's a microphone right here. If y'all would introduce yourselves, what school you're from, what grade you're in, and your rank, please.
My name is Cadet Woodcock. I'm a petty officer for 3rd class, and I'm from Eugene National High School. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Cadet Bradley. I'm a petty officer 2nd class. I'm from Ashley High School, and I am a sophomore.
I am Cadet Williams. I go to Ashley, and I am a seaman apprentice.
Thank you very much. And the instructors for the NJROTC, Stanley Hollins and Coach Frost. Thank you very much for being here. Item D on the agenda is the roll call. Ms. Adams, will you call the roll, please?
Donald S. Hayes.
Here.
Jeanette S. Nichols.
Here.
Janice A. Kavanaugh. Here. Tammy J. Coble.
Here.
Lisa E. Stepp. Here. Derek G. Hickey.
Here.
Edward B. Higgins.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is approval of the agenda. Any changes?
I have two. Requesting that we pull item K, roof repairs, and appendix U. We will bring that back to you at a later date.
Okay.
Item P, we need to move until after the closed session. Also, would request that we move the closed session until after calls of the audience.
Second.
Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Item A, our regular meeting on April the 1st, 2014.
Move for approval.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item B is the minutes of our special meeting, April the 15th, 2014.
Move for approval. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved. Item 4 is recognition of achievement.
The board will recognize 7 New Hanover County Schools Hearing Board volunteers. Each of these individuals has dedicated their time to student hearings for 15 years or more. The board hearing proceedings could not take place without dependable community members like these 7 people. They each exhibit great patience in listening to both the schools and the student sides in matters, and they humbly offer wisdom and advice to aid in decision-making. It is my honor to recognize these fine community members. As I say your name, will you please come forward to accept your award? Mr. Jimmy Faison. Yes, sir. A group picture would be great. Miss Teresa Golston. Miss Nancy Keefhaber. Now, Miss Keefhaber. Miss Rena Lennon. Mrs. Evangelist McGee. Miss Ann Robbins. And last but not least, Mr. Kent Pepper. Now, if we can have a group photo with Mr. Hayes. Thank you. Next, we will recognize our Energy Conservation Contest winners. From January through March, each middle school in our district participated in an Energy Conservation Contest sponsored by New Hanover County Schools. The goal was to achieve a perfect audit by changing the behavior of staff and students regarding energy conservation. 2 schools came out on top through their diligence in things such as turning off classroom lights, office, computers, printers, copiers, and other electronics, as well as closing blinds properly at the end of the day. Our 2 winning schools are Murray Middle School and Roland Grice. They both had perfect or near perfect audits, and they've won the Energy Conservation Award for this year and $1,500. Wow, right? And Mr. Hans told me that the check is in the mail, but we do have your award, so we are going to ask our principals, Mr. McCarty and Mr. Hatch, would you come forward and introduce your great teams? We'll start with Murray. Congratulations, Murray Middle School. And representing Roland Grice, Mr. Will Hatch. Now we'll have Dr. Holliday come forward to recognize our positive behavior schools, PBIS.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Glad to be here tonight. There are probably some teachers and principals in Williamston, North Carolina, if they're still alive, to know that if I was here tonight recognizing people for positive behavior intervention and support, would be quite surprised. That being said, we are really trying to work very hard to improve behavior and to teach it and be positive about it and do the kinds of things. Working in some of our elementary schools are doing a wonderful job. In fact, 5 New Hanover County schools were recognized on February 26, 2014 by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. These schools were among over 400 schools in North Carolina that earned one of 3 levels of recognition. In order to receive any level of recognition from the state Department of Public Instruction, the schools completed an application process that included multiple reports based on behavior and academic data, because that's what we're here for. The schools that received recognition by DPI did so because the faculty and staff at these schools demonstrated high levels of implementation based on the positive behavior intervention and support model. Part of the curriculum is the basis of all our academic instruction. Positive behavior is the behavior management system for a campus. In a multi-tier system of supports, referred to globally as response to intervention, PBIS is a framework comprised of tiered intervention practices and organizational systems for establishing the social, culture, learning, and teaching environment and individual behavior supports needed to achieve academic and social success for all students. Students that implement positive behavior intervention and support provide teachers with tools and strategies to teach social skills that are used every day in everyday living. These schools can fully expect to become more efficient and consistent with behavior management, use of preventive measures to decrease unwanted behavior, and experience a shift in attention to the appropriate behaviors and witness a positive climate and philosophy change. To ensure that PBIS schools in New Hanover County maintain high fidelity of implementation, layers of support are provided by the Student Support Services Division of the New Hanover County Schools, and at the state in the form of consultation and training. Now, there's a lot of words to be said that we want to recognize some schools. The following schools were recognized for implementation of the positive behavior intervention and support model at the high level of fidelity. First, Gregory School of Math, Science, and Technology. They received the Model Award. The principal is Miss Krista Holland. Her team, AP, Miss Tori Bailey. Campus team leader is Rebecca Jones. Who else you got up here? Who? Tracy Tucker. Glad to have you. All right, come on up. Y'all want to sing the Gregory song? I do know that one. I know the Gregory song. Thank you, Gregory Dolphins. And now, Pine Valley Elementary School Top Tigers, Exemplar Award. Principal, Miss Rebecca Higgins Opgran, campus team leader, Jenny Winkler. Anybody else y'all want to bring up here? Okay. The Rachel Freeman Elementary School of Engineering. They won the Exemplar Award. Principal, Dr. Sherry Vesey, AP, Laura Naupia, and campus leader, Allison Ashton. Okay, the Sunset Park Elementary School. Winners of the Exemplar Award, Principal Miss Jackie Jethro, campus team leader Jenny Amarelli. Did I do that right? Did I get it right? What? Okay, all right. They don't want me to try it again. Finally, Wrightsboro Elementary School. Their colors are purple and gold, by the way. They won the Exemplar Award. Principal, Miss Bonnie Hall. Campus team leaders, Mandy Baker and Angie Smith. Thank you all. Oh. These teams have on display in the room off to the side over here their programs. If you get an opportunity to walk through there, I encourage you to do that. They've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Holliday. Our last award recognition for this evening is for our Human Resources Department, and I'm really glad to present this because they are sort of the wind beneath our wings and they never get recognized. So this is for the Beginning Teacher Support Program. The New Hanover County Schools Beginning Teacher Support Program is funded by federal Title II dollars and is part of the Human Resources Department. The goal of the program is to ensure that all beginning teachers receive the support and evaluation needed to become high-performing teachers. So in March, DPI came down and conducted a compliance review of our Beginning Teacher Support Program. The summary report indicated that there were no issues or areas of concern. All resources are being utilized in an appropriate manner, and they had no recommendations for improvement. And out of 120 elements reviewed by the committee, our team got 119 distinguished marks. The program received commendations for providing extensive support for beginning teachers and mentors, for the organization of all of their documentation, and especially for the development of a resource they call the Toolbox, which supports beginning teachers. The monitoring team said they were especially pleased with the resource Toolbox, and they have requested that it be implemented in school districts across the state. So our HR team is to be highly commended for this, and we would like to recognize them. As I say your name, would you please come forward? Their fearless leader is our own Dr. John Wilmers. Dr. Susan Hahn, the director. Mrs. Robin Myers. And Mrs. Marsha Kearns-Merkel. So we congratulate all the members of our HR staff, all of the principals and mentors who help provide support for this very important program. Go HR.
One comment I'll make about the display in the next room, if you have the opportunity, you need to go through there. One of the, trying to remember, I don't know if it was Wrightsboro, which school it was, but on the end, there was one that caught my eye, and it's two characters facing each other, and it said that you don't have to attend every argument that you're invited to. And I like that. That just, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Okay, thank you. Our next item, item 5, is our call to the audience concerning agenda items. We've had 2 individuals sign up, and I would remind everyone that while we welcome comments and so forth, that we do have the right to limit any discussions that become slanderous or personal in nature, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. First speaker, Allie Lewis.
Hello. My name is Allie Lewis, and I'm a senior at John T. Hoggart High School. I have been enrolled in the Stay in AVID program for the past 4 years. It's been an awesome experience for me. AVID has taught me how to be organized, to communicate with teachers, and the importance of giving back in the community. Having earned AB Honor Roll, AVID has equipped me with skills to achieve good grades. The program's goal is to identify and prepare students to be successful in a 4-year university. Recently, I've been accepted to my #1 choice college, which is East Carolina University, and one of the main reasons I chose to join AVID was for its Dell Scholarship. Hoggart High School has had a total of 8 Dell Scholarship winners in the past 8 years, and 10 since AVID began in 2003. That's over $200,000 in scholarships. According to former AVID teacher John Rica and my current state teacher Nick Japinas, no other program has offered so much to under-supported first-generation college students as the Dell Scholarship has, as it's $20,000 plus computer and support throughout college. Unfortunately, this year I was ineligible to apply for the Dell Scholarship because New Hanover County decided to drop the nationally recognized AVID program and replace it with STAY. While AVID is nationally recognized and known and understood by almost all colleges and universities for producing and determined and hardworking first-generation candidates, STAY is unknown beyond New Hanover County and has minimal impact on college application. This change has negatively affected me along with all other STAY students because we no longer have AVID. We are not eligible to apply for the Dell Scholarship, which is crucial to furthering our education careers, considering the fact that I, like most STAY students, have a single parent that financially supports 3 children on her own. And any type of scholarship would help cut down the burden. Today, I respectfully ask the members of the Board of Education to either reinstate the AVID program or provide a scholarship similar to the Dell for lower income families in the state program for students in New Hanover County schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Lee. Good evening. I'm here representing the Parents Council of the New Hanover County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In December, Judge Corpening's Safe School Committee released a report on the school-to-prison pipeline. That pipeline starts when zero-tolerance policies and increased law enforcement presence in schools creates a schoolhouse to jailhouse track in which school-based arrests are used to deal with student misbehavior, especially minor incidents, resulting in students being pushed out of school into criminal justice systems. Word is that New Hanover County Schools will soon start a pilot program at 3 schools incorporating many recommendations from Judge Corpening's committee. These recommendations derive from the work of Judge Stephen Teskey in Clayton County, Georgia. The Teskey plan sees the discipline problems in schools as problems of education rather than criminal justice. It relies heavily on something called restorative practices, focusing on building healthy relationships between students and adults, and allowing students and adults to learn from mistakes and make amends. Another important aspect of the Teskey plan is an agreement between school systems and law enforcement agencies. These memoranda of understanding, or MOUs as they are called, define the duties and responsibilities of administrators and law enforcement, including the power relationships that guide who's in charge under specific circumstances. You do not have a MOU with the Wilmington Police Department or the New Hanover County Sheriff's Department. The North Carolina Advocates for Justice recently compared the rates at which students enter the juvenile justice system in, in several large school systems. We have significantly higher rates than either Raleigh or Charlotte. But both Wake County and Charlotte-Mecklenburg school systems do have MOUs with law enforcement. There is a correlation then between the absence of an MOU and increased rates entrance to the school prison pipeline. So I congratulate you on your decision to implement your pilot project based on Teskey's model, but the Parents Council of the New Hanover County branch of the NAACP urges you, I'm almost done, to prioritize inclusion of a missing key piece of that model, a memorandum of understanding between you and law enforcement. Sit down with the police chief, sit down with the sheriff, and write an agreement that clearly establishes the role of all parties. That will be a real step in addressing some of the circumstances that feed students into the criminal justice system. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 6, administrative personnel. Item A, administrative contract renewals. Appendix B, Dr. Markley.
I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Welmers.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the following principals for contracts through 2014 through 2018. Ms. Tammy Bristol at Ogden Elementary School, Ms. Sharon Ducharme at Trask Middle School, Ms. Robin Hamilton at Parsley Elementary School, Mr. Sam Highsmith at Myrtle Grove Middle School, Ms. Laurie Holliday at Holly Tree Elementary School, Mr. Eric Irizarry at Virgo Preparatory Academy, Ms. Kristen Jackson at Lake Forest Academy, Ms. Jane Kiker at Bradley Creek Elementary School, Dr. Jerry Oates at Williston Middle School, Mr. Al Bryant, Laney High School, Mr. Adrian Pearson at Mosley Performance Learning Center, and Ms. Cynthia Wartell at Carolina Beach Elementary School. I'd like to recommend these individuals who are assistant principals for a contract from 2014 through 2018. Mr. Brian Bauer at Laney High School, Mr. Charles Broadfoot at Williston Middle School, Mr. Lloyd Brown at Trask Middle School, Mr. Michael Cobb at Ogden Elementary School, Ms. Crystal Danford at Carolina Beach Elementary School, Mr. Ed Dominowski at Wrightsville Elementary School, Michelle Faison at Trask Middle School, Ms. Martha Godwin at Myrtle Grove Middle School, Ms. Emily Grace at Wrightsville Beach Elementary School, Ms. Sam Kantrowitz at Myrtle Grove Middle School, Ms. Cindy Cassell at Murray Middle School, John Burt Kilpatrick at Pine Valley Elementary School, Alec McNaughton at Hoggard High School, Jill Robertson at Sunset Park Elementary School, Wanda Sloan at New Hanover High School, Dawn Vickers at Williams Elementary School, and Catherine Watson at Ashley High School. In the central office, I'd like to recommend Mr. Donald Cummings, Supervisor of Title I, Karen Green, Director of Testing, Georgianne Haas, Supervisor of Arts Education, Ms. Carol Sutton, the Supervisor of Language Arts in Title I.
Were you through, Dr. Wellman?
On those, yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion. Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? They're approved. Thank you.
Next, we have three recommendations for employment 2014-2017. Dr. Rick Holliday, Deputy Superintendent. Mr. Bill Hance, Assistant Superintendent for Planning and Operations. Dr. John Welmers, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? They're approved.
Final recommendations are program coordinators for our two early colleges, Keisha Bennett Smith at Isaac Bear and Regina Wooten at Wilmington Early College. 1 year to contracts 2014-2015.
Move for approval.
Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 7, under information, item A, seamless summer option, appendix D, Mr. Hance.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call on Ms. Heimer Smith, our Director of Child Nutrition, to speak with you on a seamless summer program. We're at 23 different sites this summer.
Correct. And I'm pleased to announce that Child Nutrition will sponsor the seamless summer option, which is otherwise known as a summer food service program this summer. And as you can tell, I think on the attachments we have 24 different sites available that children throughout the community can come and eat during the summer months. We do have to keep in mind that, hunger does not end, after school lets out. So we are going to continue to feed children. The seamless summer option is a free lunch that has no cost. It is for children 18 years of age or younger. There are individuals over the age of 18 who participate in school programs for a state-defined mental or physical disability that can also be approved to eat during the summer. Last summer, just to recap, last summer we fed over 16,946 meals that averaged out to 640 meals a day. And we also served 3,396 snacks along with that. With an operation date of 26 days, and we had 18 different sites. This year we're even going a little bit higher. So this summer we plan to reach out to 24 different sites, serve over 1,200 different children per day, and I'm hoping to increase that number, or a total of 32,400 meals during that length of time of 27 days of service. So I would like to announce to the public that we will have this program operating at these different sites. I didn't know my presentation was going to be up there. Thank you. If you want to, the presentation just kind of points out a little bit about the different areas throughout the state of North Carolina that has the seamless summer or summer food service programs that operate. We are in the 11 to 15,000% range in New Hanover County schools. And what is seamless summer? It allows school food authorities to provide free summer meals in low-income areas during the traditional summer vacation periods. And why is summer nutrition important? Because most families, if you think about it, most families are reporting spending more on food during the summer months, an increase of $316 per month. Families are finding it harder to make ends meet during the summer, and hunger prevents children from reaching their full potential. And like I said, it's no cost at all. It's open to children 18 years old or younger. And I already recapped a little bit about what we did last year and what we plan to do this year. And I have all the sites there. We do have 2 different operating dates. I am trying to be a little business savvy here and think about those programs that are operating during the summer months and have it available. Some of our programs start July 14th through August 7th, so I'm going to have those sites available to the public and to those also the programs that are operating within the schools to allow children to come in and eat lunch. And you can find more information on our website. We'll have that posted on our website along with the times where you can eat, and so everyone's aware. We will get this information out to the schools. There's different community organizations that I'll get it out to, and we're very happy to be able to sponsor this program again. And thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. What do they do on Friday?
On Friday, well, the schools only operate Monday through Thursday, so we're only allowed to operate Monday through Thursday, our offices.
So we don't give them like a backpack or anything on Thursday for Friday or the weekend?
No, sir, I don't have that program available for
Okay.
them.
Just wondering.
Ms. Kavanaugh?
Question. I think I counted 28 sites that are going to be served this coming summer, but of those 28, 26 were in the city limits, and only 2 were out in the county. And I was wondering, say like the Monkey Junction area or closer to Carolina Beach, is it that we don't have enough children participating to warrant it, or what is the reason for not having many out in the county?
We have extended it out on the southern part of the county. We have Mary C. Williams, which is pretty close to Monkey Junction area. This summer we'll also have it open to, let's see here, we have, we also have it, if you want to go back. But we do have Mary C. Williams on the southern part of the county. The northern part of the county will have Castle Hayne, Wrightsboro, Murrayville. The reason that we don't have it open on the southern part of the county, because a lot of those schools do not qualify. You do have to qualify an area eligible, which is 50% or more free or reduced. So that is one way. I did look at a census. You can look at a census numbers, and I did take each one of the sites on the southern part of the county and looked at this, the information that the state provides, and I did not find any schools, Carolina Beach, Bellamy, Anderson, any schools that would qualify as under the census data.
Okay.
And so the only school that I could qualify was Mary C. Williams.
I don't see Murrayville on that list.
Murrayville is, Murrayville's not on the main list. It should be. And thank you for pointing that out. I will get that added.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it is on our list.
Okay.
Okay, I apologize for that.
Oh, that's quite all right.
So if a child, say, at Carolina Beach School qualifies for free or reduced lunch, they could go to one of the other sites?
They can go to any sites.
Okay.
We don't ask for any ID. We don't ask if they're from New Hanover County Schools. It's open to the public.
I see.
18 years and younger.
So even though we can't service a site, they can certainly
They can go to any
be
site they
invited
like.
anywhere.
Yes, ma'am.
That's excellent. Thank you.
This is a federally funded program?
It is.
And I know it doesn't have any cost to the nutrition program of the schools, but
Is it kind of like an open-ended check? I mean, how, it seems we have more sites and we're offering, want to offer double the amount of meals. I mean, how does that work? How's the funding work for this?
How does it work? Well, in child nutrition, you know, we're all forecasting these numbers. So I know exactly how many programs are running in a school. And so I know that about amount of the students that are in the school that are going to participate in some of the different programs that the schools are going to offer. From there, we just kind of hope that the students are going to attend those programs. As far as community sites, we look at historical information. We've been doing this for over 30 years. So we're pretty, you know, I look at it each year, and we're pretty good about estimating and forecasting the amount of servings that we'll serve at these particular sites. As far as the funding goes, we do, the federal government does reimburse us. The federal rate at a free reimbursement rate is $3.01, so for every meal. And we look at it and we just hope that every year we pretty much break even. So we know exactly how much we're spending administration-wise, how much we're spending on food. We do look at labor really close and food cost. And we look at that every week to see where we are we making it, you know, do we need to, you know, we look at every site as far as participation goes. Is it cost effective to have that site open? And so our sites do know, and as far as the federal government knows, that we can close a site at any time if we see that there's a loss. But so far, over 30 years, we've been doing pretty well. So I'm happy to say that we're going to be a sponsor again.
Isn't it true that we don't have an age limit on who can participate?
It's 18 years or younger. So there's no, the age limit is you just have to be 18 years or younger. And if you have a physical or mental disability and you attend New Hanover County schools, then you can participate too over the age of 18.
Yeah.
I just want to get a clarification. You mentioned that schools might not qualify. I mean, you used the example of Carolina Beach or
Yes.
Bellamy or yet all of these are not schools. I mean, there are some sites, and I'm just having a hard time understanding. It's almost like saying that there's no need for this program south of Mary C. Williams, but yet I suspect there really is a need, and I still don't quite understand why we don't reach out to say, and I assume we cook this food at a central location and deliver it. It's not cooked at, so why we don't reach out to some churches in the southern part of the county or some other public place that we could service the kids from Carolina Beach. I mean, if you're in that situation, you're at Carolina Beach to say you've got to come all the way up to Mary C. Williams to be able to get a free lunch, I suspect most of them are not going to do it. But if there was a center, you know, maybe the Catholic Church that's down there on Carolina Beach Road or some of those other places that might be willing to work with us. My question is it because Mary C. Williams and some of those others meet certain criterias and Bellamy and
Yes.
and Carolina Beach don't? Or, I mean, I just don't quite grasp why we can't reach out to those other people.
The way that sites are qualified is,
Well, I'm not talking about sites qualify. I'm talking about why we don't service kids who need free and reduced lunch from Carolina Beach and Bellamy and maybe even, I'm sure there's probably kids at Parsley that are on free and reduced lunch. And I mean, it may be that they don't qualify as a Title I school, but those kids are going just as hungry as the kids at Title I schools are.
Well, but if the sites don't qualify, we won't get reimbursed for the meals.
right.
Do you have
And
to
that's
stay
the
within
reason.
a certain geographical
We do.
location?
We have to stay
Okay.
within a geographic boundaries. They give us boundaries to work with, and
It's zip code, isn't it, by zip code area?
and you can look at zip. That's why when I looked at the state census, I went by zip code, and that area, it showed me that the area did not qualify. And believe
And
me, I know that there are
what is that?
children.
That's the federal government does that?
It does, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the
There are
overall
so
percentage-
many, there's so many subdivisions that I can think of,
Yes.
like Monterey Heights and Seabreeze and different areas that I know there's a large contingent of free and reduced lunch. And I just don't understand.
And what I'm hoping next year, I mean, we just gotta keep pushing to, you know, encourage the parents to fill out free and reduced application at these schools to help the site qualify. So I know that there are still parents that are not filling out free and reduced applications that could qualify, which entails, helps a lot of other programs. So we do try to encourage parents to fill out the application. It's confidential, and it helps programs like this succeed in other areas, that I can reach out to different areas. But I do check out the census too, the census data, and just to make sure that I didn't miss a step, or you know, I didn't miss that this area could qualify.
But
I'm not attacking you, but going by zip codes, you're going by zip, so it would be 28412 south of Carolina Beach, and 28409 for between Carolina Beach Road and the ocean, so, or the Intercoastal Waterway. So are you taking the entire zip code?
I put in the school's address, and then it gives me boundaries to work with, and within those boundaries, it didn't qualify that site at all.
Okay.
So I did take the different zip codes around Carolina Beach, Anderson, Bellamy, what's the other, there was one more elementary school that I checked out, but none of those boundaries were approved.
So to
But I'm
clarify.
gonna keep going.
So to clarify.
Yes, sir.
And tell me if I'm wrong here. If I understand this correctly, the federal government mandates
Right.
that the school's geographic attendance zone has to have greater or equal to 50% free and reduced lunches.
Correct.
If it qualifies, then you can put a site in that geographic boundary that serves those students in that school.
Correct.
And that's the federal formula.
Correct.
Does that make sense to everyone?
See, and also, the overall percentages are down, which is good, I guess, but the overall percentages of children on free and reduced lunch, based upon years past, is it not? Because when I was reading through all this, it seemed to me we're 49-point-something%
Right.
total, which is down from what we've been in the past. Because we were, what, 55%, I think, not too long ago.
Yeah, we were probably about 52 end of last year. Just depends on, you know, just encouraging parents to fill out the free and reduced application.
Because I know I have called,
And I don't-
you know,
you know-
several years ago when we were discussing this, you know, Raleigh and Washington about combining zip codes, like Mr. Higgins was talking about, was box lunches or something to be delivered to the, you know, to a site. But from what I read in here, that if the school is not 50%, you cannot set up a feeding site within proximity of that school.
Right.
If you didn't use the
Correct.
school itself.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
Item 8, Superintendent's Report. Item A, Safer Schools Task Force Update, Dependency, Dr. Markley.
If you'll remember last year, shortly after Sandy Hook, there was a large group convened in the county called the Safer Schools Task Force. And there were a number of recommendations that came out of that, as well as a number of recommendations we had around some physical security. Two of the folks who put that together are here today. That's Mr. Ben David, if he'd stand, and Judge Jay Corpening, who put that task force together. And one of the main presenters of that task force was a gentleman named Larry Boney. Larry's has a very interesting background. I'll let Ben talk about that briefly. But he wants to work with 3 of our schools as pilots to train the staff on recognizing some of those early warning signs, so that the staff has an understanding of that. And a follow-up piece of that is what Judge Corpening is doing on the 22nd with some of our school folks, working with a pilot program in Atlanta and the possibility of bringing that here. So Ben, I'll let you speak very briefly about Mr. Boney and ask Mr. Boney to come forward.
We certainly appreciate y'all taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the school board, thank you for giving us just a few minutes to share with you what all of us in this room are passionate about, and that's making sure that school is the safest part of a child's day. To be clear, this is the Safer Schools Task Force. We believe that our schools are already very safe, but we want to do everything within our power to make them even safer. This is not a reactive effort. We convened a summit on school safety right after Newtown when everyone had their full attention on it. I began my career as a prosecutor the day after the Columbine tragedy. And for those of you who remember 15 years ago, this community was gripped by threats of school violence in the days right after that as well. In fact, that was my first jury trial in this community, a threat that came out of Hoggard High School. So this is not a new issue for us. What we are really wanting to make sure that everybody in this community understands is that behavior under a roof is one of the big precursors to making sure that we assess a threat and head it off before something happens. We are not here to declare victory if we don't have a school shooting this year. The recommendations that we want to put in place really focus on making all children safer and the learning environment more productive every day. And that really focuses on bullying prevention. It focuses on mental health, on communication between professionals within a school to include mental health and teachers, to look at volunteers, to look at parent involvement. And so what I did a year ago was bring together many leaders. And I asked them not just to have a conversation, but to commit to a plan of action that looked at national best practices and focused on behavior, information sharing, and hardening the target. What we mean by that is making sure that the physical surroundings of a school are as safe and secure as possible. So with that matrix in mind, and after that summit, I asked Judge Jay Corpening, our Chief District Court Judge for New Hanover and Pender counties, to chair a Safer Schools Task Force that was made up of many of the professionals that you'll see listed in this report. I had Larry Bonney, who is behind me as well, to be the water carrier on a lot of the recommendations that have come out of this report. Larry is a national expert. While he happens to live here and work in a school here in New Hanover County, Larry's first life was as a hostage and rescue team member for the FBI. In fact, he's the founding member of that team. And his son is a current member and also an FBI agent. That's the SWAT team that goes in when we have situations like this. And so Larry and Jay and many of the people in this report worked tirelessly over the last several months to come up with several recommendations. I want to turn it over to them now to describe what those recommendations are in very summary fashion. I want to urge you to think about the ways that we can fund this, because we tend to look at these again after something happens, and there's no amount of money we wouldn't spend for extra, for instance, school resource officers. I saw you do that in January last year, and I thank you for that, to look at various ways to make sure that the schools are as safe as possible. But looking prospectively, looking long term, there's some things that don't cost a lot of money. There's some best practices we can put in place. And before we do that district-wide for New Hanover and Pender counties, before we even do that throughout New Hanover County, we wanted to start with some pilot sites to make sure that we knew what we were talking about before we made that a practice throughout the district. So with that in mind, I would like to briefly call on Larry Bonney at this time to talk a little bit more about the report recommendations, and then Jay Corpening to talk about this issue, and then the related topic that Mr. Lee mentioned, which is Judge Teskey's model about the contact that we have with the court system from school, that school to prison pipeline, and how we can make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep kids in school. So with that, I'm going to call on Larry Bonney at this time. Larry?
How many folks in here are teachers? Okay, that's good. The thing I like about working with Ben and John is we put this task force together. We had national recognized experts. We had local experts. We reviewed all the literature nationally, internationally for that matter, to see what are the kinds of things that need to be done. And we put together a comprehensive report. And as in most perfect bureaucracies, and I lived with one for 26 years as an FBI agent, those reports generally sit on a shelf, and you in education see that same problem. You put a lot of work in, you develop a great program, and it sits on a shelf. They told me this is not going to sit on a shelf. We care about what we learned, we care about what we need to do, and we need to carry it forward. Unfortunately, there was no way to carry that forward except call on an old retired guy who used to be an FBI agent and a graduate student at UNCW who's just finished her capstone subject, her capstone project, and it is about safer schools. And he asked us if we would take that forward, which we have done. And the next step in that line of things we are doing, after talking to Dr. Markley and saying we would like to have access to the teachers in training programs, because this is where this next step has to happen. We want to go into the schools, we want to interview targeted people, we want to interview people that are teachers, people that are administrators, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, faculty, staff, and we want to let them know that everybody in that school system has a responsibility to the children. Everybody in that school system probably sees those kids more during the day than their parents see them. Everybody in that school system gets aggravated at some of the behavior they see. They get aggravated at some of the anger issues. They get aggravated at the discipline problems. They get aggravated at the fact that the most important thing in that school that should be happening is educating the children, and the thing that isn't happening in an awful lot of cases because of behavioral disruptions, because of home life, because of home culture, because of 1,000 different things, school is the last place where they have to have a safe environment with people that care about it. And that is you teachers, that is the Board of Education that sits before you here and say, how do we make that happen? We don't just kick kids out of school repeatedly. That Teskey model is I'm glad he brought that up, because that too often is the answer. In-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, juvenile court. Judge Corpening does everything he can to keep those kids in school. He does everything he can to provide programs to make those kids better comportment, give them a hope for the future, and show them that the justice system cares about them becoming productive members of society, as opposed to being viewed as problem kids from the time they're in elementary school till the time they either drop out or get out of high school. And so that's what our task has been. It seems like such an easy task as I present it that way, I know. Two of us addressing a school system of this size. So we've developed a strategy, and what Dr. Markley has agreed to is 5 training sessions with his faculty and his staff to talk about the issues of school safety. How do we change the culture in the schools? How do we change the relationships between the teachers and the students, between the faculty members, between the superintendent? This starts at the top and has to go all the way down to the maintenance folks in that school. And so our program is going to look like this. The first training program is going to be...
Larry, let me interrupt you. What we
yeah.
have is 3 schools that have volunteered to pilot this for us.
Right.
In Hanover High School, Williston, and Freeman Elementary School. So we're going to roll this out on those 3 schools, and then we'll look at the what was presented after that and decide what the long-term commitment will be after that.
And that's where we are right now. Dr. Markley has bought into what we would like to do. I'm here to present to the school board and ask that you would buy in also and give us authority to go into those schools, conduct these interviews, learn from the folks that are there on the front lines, and make some recommendations, suggestions, and provide training that will make it easier for them to do. 10 key findings of the Safe School Initiative. We have those. This was done after Sandy Hook, and they came up with 10 suggestions. They have been doing these things since Columbine. They've actually been doing these things since the Texas Tower. These programs are not national in scope. These programs are not providing a training package along with them. They're providing observations, and they're providing recommendations. They're not providing implementation. We want to do the implementation side. We're going to present a Safe School Task Force brief history. We're going to talk about the historical perspective of major school shootings. They have commonalities throughout. Every one of those school shootings, with few exceptions, could have been predicted had people known what to look for, had people put the pieces together, and they had somewhere to go to solicit professional help to head the problem off. And those are some of the things that we want to teach. Causative factors, relationship building. Every piece of literature about school safety begins and ends with relationship building between a responsible adult and a child, starting at the elementary school level. Do they have some adult they can trust? They have some adult that pats them on the back and says, you belong here, that you have a sense of hope, that you have a sense of future, that you can succeed if you provide us and give us yourself and let us take you and make you into something important, something special, and that we can send you out the door and you can be a productive member of society. Every teacher wants that for every student they see. Every administrator wants that for every student they see. Every law enforcement officer wants that for every person they see, and there's a way to get there. Warning signs of dysfunction, warning signs of imminent danger. They are clear, they are present, they are definable, they're observable. And we have to know, teachers have to know, particularly when they see certain kinds of behaviors, see certain kinds of actions, they have to address it directly. They have to bring it to the attention of certain people within the school system, up to and including child psychologists, up to and including law enforcement, depending on the nature of the threat. But first of all, they have to identify it. We have 15 different shootings that occurred where the students that did the shootings actually told fellow students they were going to do it, and because of that code of silence, kids were not willing to step forward. One boy went and said, come to the cafeteria tomorrow. They had a big open area where the cafeteria was with a big balcony around the top. He says, I'm going to shoot the place up. He told 2 kids that. When he showed up with his gun the next morning, 24 kids were there to watch as he shot and killed 6 people and wounded several others. All one of those students had to do is step forward and say, hey, I don't know if he's joking or not, but this is what he said he's going to do. And we have about 11 cases as dramatic as that where people knew but never reported it because of the code of silence. There are warning signs of imminent danger. And you go to the next slide, please. Warning signs, good. Early warning signs of violence and aggression, immediate warning signs that violence is a serious possibility. There's a build-up process in some of these kids that isn't manifested in threats, it isn't manifested in violent activity, but it's manifested in an essay they may write. It's manifested in conversation they may have with their friends. It's manifested in the classroom when they get aggravated and irritated and they say things that are inappropriate and they say things that are a little scary to the teacher, but the teacher goes, that's just him shooting off his mouth. He's shooting off his mouth all the time. That's a warning sign. There's a problem there. That kid is a hater. That kid wants to hurt somebody. Not all of them do it, but the ones that do, they can be stopped, they can be remediated, they can be identified, and there is a program to get them into within the school system, passing them through what we call a threat assessment task force situation. We're going to go over case study practice, and we're going to go over school responsibilities. What is a school responsible for in terms of identifying and providing resources to head this problem off? Next slide, please. Training number 3 will be fostering a safer school climate, fostering a culture of respect. That is one of those nebulous things that we all say, yeah, we want to foster this culture of respect. If you were in there at the PBIS room, you saw some of the things that are being done to do that. Those things are very effective. There are specific steps that everyone associated with that school can do to foster a culture of respect in the school, and we're going to go through those. Creating connections between adults and students. Absolutely the most important thing that can happen in the school system is that relationship between a school employee at no matter what level, from bus driver to teacher to principal to whoever, a positive relationship where that adult has taken notice of a child that is in need and want, who is angry, who is hurting, who has no role model, who has no home life, who doesn't eat a meal during the day, and identifies that problem and takes a step to address it and stays with that kid for a period of time until that kid understands that somebody cares about them, they are important, and they have a place in that school. Breaking the code of silence, anonymous tip lines, confidentiality issues, protecting the source issues. Those are all part of that, but that's a significant portion of school safety, is that kids feel comfortable coming to that trusted adult and saying, here's what I heard, here's what I saw, here's what I think is going to happen, I'm scared. He brought a gun to school, it's in the trunk of his car. That goes to law enforcement goes, opens the trunk, there's a gun, there's a prevented shooting. Those are the kinds of things that are happening when the school has this culture of respect and has interactivity between the students and the adults. Major components and tasks of creating a safe, connected school climate. Bullying is an issue. I don't have to go through that. You all have seen that. You know what it is. There are ways to deal with the bullying. And it's not by throwing a kid out of school who carves a gun out of a sandwich. There are ways to identify certain specific performance behavior issues that you can identify as a problematic area. Empowering students, leadership areas, PBIS, again, great programs for empowering students, putting them in positions of leadership, having them work together as a team for a common goal, great program. Climates of safety, create rules and adherence. Parents tend to be, they want to excuse their children's behavior instead of address the children's behavior. And when you go to a parent as a teacher and you want to talk to them, you don't go to them and say, this behavior's got to stop, we're going to kick them out of school. You go to them and say, what is it about your son, what is it about your daughter that's causing them to behave this way, to react this way? What is going on in your home? Can we talk about how we can fix this? That's the kind of conversations we need to have with parents. Climates of safety, importance of a threat assessment team, and we are hoping at some point in time there will be money available to hire someone to take over this job as the coordinator of the Safer Schools Task Force. Because that person would be the expert that could come in, and when you identify a problem, they can say the next step is this, the next step is to the school counselor, the next step is to the principal, the next step is to the mental health department, the next step is to DSS. But direct that kid where there will be help for them. Direct that kid to professional care where it's needed. And those are the kinds of things we need to identify. Training, number 4, the role of law enforcement. And we're going beyond lockdowns. I think the lockdown thing is kind of bought and paid for. Everybody gets it, everybody knows it, everybody rehearses it. Law enforcement is familiar with the active shooter response. I think that base has been touched pretty well. And the school resource officers, don't forget, school resource officers are not in schools to arrest people. It can happen, yes, depending on the circumstances. School resource officers now start in the elementary schools. There's a man with a gun and a uniform in the school, and those people are carefully selected, specifically trained to work with kids, and their job is to say, I am here to be your friend, to help you. I'm in the classroom reading during story time in the elementary school. In middle school, I'm at your ball games, and I'm watching you play, and I see you the next day in school, and I tell you what a good job you did out there. They want to have a positive impact on the kids. And Donnie Williams, I think, is a great example of that. Brought up down here in the worst part of town. He's now captain in charge of the area where he used to live. And he can point to mentors that brought him out of that and sent him back in now as a significant member of the community to have an impact on kids in that area. And that's something that the law enforcement people want. They don't want to be the big bad enforcers in the school, smacking kids around and dragging them off to jail. They want to be the friend, the role model. They want to be the support system for those kids. And it should start at the elementary school and carry on up through the high school. Adult crisis intervention training. Most of the law enforcement folks that work in the schools, the SROs, if they don't have it now, they will have it, is crisis intervention training. How do you diffuse the situation in the halls, in the classroom, without violence? How do you get things calmed down? How do you get the person removed? And how do you get them help without having a big confrontation? And that training needs to go to school teachers also. Background checks and screenings, I think probably all the schools are on that. Watchdogs program is a great program. Classroom volunteers and parents coming in and helping with reading and sitting with the kids in the cafeteria and all these different areas And the biggest thing is male volunteers in the schools, working with kids, sitting side by side, helping them read their stories, helping them write stories, seeing them out in the playground. 85% of problem students, and there's a definition for that, there is no male figure in the home. 85% of the problem students, there is no male figure in the home. And so we can't fix that, but we can fix it in school. We can bring those male figures into school for those kids to see, and those SROs are part of that population. And then lastly, the essential elements of school safety. Review of key elements of creating a safe school culture. And these are specific steps. This is not be nice, be kind, try to keep your kids out of trouble. There's very specific suggestions, programs, implementation of programs, identification of problems, how to treat those problems in this threat assessment process that goes on. We're going to have an open forum, discussion, question and answers, successes and failures and recommendations. While this is going on, Samantha and I will be going around to the schools, interviewing folks to see what works, what doesn't work. In an ideal world, what would you want? What would make things better? You know, we all know about class size. We all know about 1,000 different problems in there. Let's see what we can do within the budget structure. What kind of things can this task force do to help you in terms of training, and help you in terms of creating an environment in your classroom and in your school? And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the needs and wants of the school staff and faculty. Understanding that there are budget constraints, understanding that every teacher is working their butt off 10 hours a day. And the other thing, folks, is the electronic age is here. How many hours a day does that add to your day as a teacher? When you're sending emails back and forth with parents, and you're sending emails back and forth with teachers, and the kids are, you know, sending the emails at 10 o'clock at night. I still work in one of the school systems here, and it's a nonstop thing. And when you committed yourself to being a teacher, you committed yourself to that fact, that kids are going to want to be in touch with you when they're in need, and you need to be available at those points in time. It's a heck of a commitment. It pays off every time a kid comes up to you and say, you were there when nobody else cared. If you've been teaching for 10 or 15 years, you've had kids come back and find you and tell you what an influence you had on their lives. That's what makes it worthwhile. My wife taught for 25 years. She has people come back and they have 3 babies and said, do you remember when I was in your 3rd grade class? That's what it's about. You meant so much to me. You loved me. You cared about me. That's what it's all about. And that's what you have to keep in your brain when you go into that classroom, that this is what it's about. Curriculum, yes, core curriculum, all the other things you deal with. Sorry about those. But there is a way to get through, and that's to believe that you're making a difference in kids' lives, and just to keep your nose to the grindstone, and be their friends, be their mentors, be their teachers, be their role models. And it'll make a difference for the rest of their lives. And that's pretty much what we want to do. We want to provide that training in a way that doesn't interrupt your daily routine, in a way that doesn't take up a lot of your time because you're so busy, but in a way that's quick and easy to understand, in a way that'll re-energize you, in a way that you'll reach out to those kids and be their friend, their mentors, and give them a purpose and give them a place in that school. And with that being said, I will turn you over to Judge Corcoran.
So Larry actually began his career as an educator, and now he's an educator again, and sandwiched in between, he was one of the really good guys with the FBI. The Safer Schools Task Force made a number of recommendations about program, about process, about personnel. Larry's trying to implement part of it. One of the recommendations was that New Hanover County address the issue of a schoolhouse to jailhouse pipeline and try to adopt a protocol. I need to back up about 18 months because about 18 months ago, Superintendent Markley and I met about that issue and agreed to work towards adopting just such a protocol. We actually identified our team members, had talked to the team members about doing it, and then Sandy Hook happened, and our district attorney called me and said, I need you to do this first. So we did, and we've wrapped up the Safer Schools Task Force report, and now we're prepared to embark on developing our own protocol to deal with this significant issue. I'm pleased to tell you that next Thursday, Judge Stephen Teskey from Clayton County, Georgia, is coming and bringing part of his team that adopted one of the first protocols in the country to address this issue, to facilitate our strategic planning for working on our own protocol. The superintendent and I have agreed that we're going to work through the summer, adopt a protocol, get people trained, and be ready to implement by the start of the school year this fall. We're very excited about this opportunity. Judge Teskey is very excited about coming here. He's very pleased with the things he's heard out of New Hanover County and about our relationships. So we're excited about this. They're coming at their expense. They've agreed to come and help us with this. So we're very excited about that. We'll have a day-long meeting on the 22nd, and then we'll convene multiple meetings through the summer and be ready to deliver for the fall. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And this is part of that three-prong approach we talk about when it comes to security. When we talk about upgrading our facilities through bonds, doing the things in the schools, plus what we've already got in place with SROs and a strong program with Dr. Holliday and the safety program we run out of his department. So, thank you, gentlemen. And
Is the meeting on the 22nd available for board members to attend, or is that just you and?
actually, Mr. Hayes has been invited to attend.
But not the board?
Mr. Hayes exactly addressed that. It's a working group tasked by their role. We're following the model out of Clayton County, and so superintendent, chairman of the board, there's some other educators the superintendent can fill you in on.
Dr. Holliday, Dave Spencer, I think we've got
Lisa
Mr.
Burris.
McAdams as the principal, Lisa Burris.
Judy Stubblefield.
We have Novella, who's the head of the SROs, will be there as well.
Chief of police, sheriff, district attorney, chief of probation, juvenile chief, head of psychological services, mental health, DSS. It's a working group of about 25. We're trying to task the model, and obviously the chairman will keep you updated. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you very much for being here, and we're certainly looking forward to getting this off the ground. Thank you. Been asked to take a break at this time, so we'll take a short 5-minute break.
We'll call you.